We used to have.
I hate to interrupt, but we better go now.
Okay, well, that's the end of this session. We're gonna get together soon and continue, Dad. Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning, Dad. This is Sunday, March 11th. And we're going to be going to a breakfast this morning, so we'll be able to talk before breakfast. Uh, we were talking last time about your being in high school, and you're just finishing off high school before you started to work. At this time, wasn't there a like an old country society, the Marmosha Society, or something of that nature that your family was active in?
Yes. Yes, we. It was customary in those times to have these different societies, like the Maramarasha, the Gatsianer, all those ethnic groups. Although they were all Jews, but they're from different countries. From Hungary, they had the Hungarian, they had the Galicianer, they had a Maramarasha. Oh, I can name them maybe a dozen more if I could remember their names. And these groups, their function was to meet once a week or once a month. I don't know exactly what schedule they kept up. And just for the enjoyment of it, they would sing and dance, and have music, they would have lunches, they would have picnics. So my dad and mother, being in business, they never had time to attend any of those functions. Although my dad was a member of the Hungarian Society, where Uncle Max was very active, his brother, Uncle Max, was very active in it. And so was the Glicks, and so was many of the old friends that he knew were active in the Hungarian Society. Well, mother's end of it was the Maramarasha. The Maramarasha Society belonged to Uncle Dave and Rosie Rosenthal and all from mother's side, you know. Those who come from Maramarasha, they belong to the Maramarasha Society. And it happened so there was more Maramarasha than of that group than the rest of them. So we had a bigger membership. They went ahead and bought even cemetery plots. And every member was assigned to a cemetery plot. We had to pay for it. It was a nominal fee, of course. And I joined with them. And maybe I went to one or two meetings. And that's about all, because when I got older, I moved to Gary. Naturally, when I did get through working in Gary, at that time the working hours was 10 hours a day. Saturday used to be a special, 12 hours a day. I would start 6 in the morning and get through 8 o'clock at night. Then I would jump into the car and drive over to Chicago, come home for Saturday night or Sunday. Many times I had to work Sunday morning, so I left at noon, came in Sunday afternoon. But I never did attend the Maramarasha meetings, too many, because I had other interests. I had my younger boys, but I told you we had the basements, we had those groups where we met in the basement, we decorated, we got furniture, and we got beds, phonograph records and so forth, where all the boys would get together and we would have enjoyment. We'd have a Limburger party where everybody ate dark bread with Limburger, with near beer they had at that time. And once in a while we'd have, of course, a couple of girls who would come perform for us. And that's how much the occasion was as far as the different ethnic group societies is concerned. As a matter of fact, the Maramara Society is still in existence today.
In Chicago,
Not here, but partly here, but mostly in Chicago. And they did partake and helped out Israel an awful lot. As a matter of fact, they bought a whole plot, also cemetery plot, where they planted trees, and they built homes for all those Marmorshers that escaped the Holocaust. And they moved over there. They furnished them with homes and with furniture and so forth. They took a big part of it.
The Marmosher Society, you said that they had a cemetery. Do you remember what they did, if anything, to help new immigrants come to when they came to the United States?
Oh yes, those immigrants, of course they did. They helped them find a place where to live. They helped them find a place to work. As a matter of fact, Uncle Dave took a couple of them to work. He worked for Hartsheffner and Marx at one time. And he was some kind of a foreman there. He took a couple of them in to live in there. And as I said, it was a custom at that time to have a boarding house. My mother had it, and there was hundreds of other families that had these boarding houses where they boarded at their homes, and they paid so much a week for the board and meals.
It was all a family.
It was family. Well, the other ones had families too. At that time, they were coming in from all over, from Poland, from Russia, from Hungary, from Marmorsh. At that time, after a while, they put a quota on them, and they stopped it. They wouldn't let them come in. So they all had these different groups. But there's one thing that did come up. Uncle Max had a little girl, Natalie. She must have been about, maybe, I think she was a little bit younger than Bernice, his oldest daughter. She took sick and passed away.
Uncle Max was your brother's brother?
Uncle Max was naturally my dad's brother, At that time, they were pretty bad financial condition. When that happened, he went over to my dad and told him, look, this and this happened. We have to have a burial place for Natalie. That was her name, I think. He says, I don't know who to approach, to what cemetery. So he says, wait a minute, I have a plot for you. Sidney has a plot. He belonged to the Maramara Cemetery, and he was forced to buy a plot. And sure enough, he called me and asked me whether I would transfer the plot to his name. And I called out the president. He says, yes, I can do that, providing he joins the membership. He becomes also a member of the Maramara. Right. Because Uncle Max was a member to the Hungarian Society, and they didn't have the cemetery, but Maramosha did. So he became a member of the Maramosha, and he used my cemetery plot for him. Then, of course, he bought 2-3 more for the rest of them. And that was that.
Do you know what else the Marmosha did Did they have any regular activities?
They had a place where they played cards there, do you remember?
They had a place.
Like a clubhouse,
Yeah, there was
called it a
called.
cafe.
There was a clubhouse.
Yeah.
I think in the Graciano Temple.
Oh no.
There was a clubhouse. They would meet once a month. They would play cards. Once in a while, they would have a party with musicians. But they would bring along lunches or serve lunches over there. They always had doings every,
They had dances.
I would say at least once a month. You know, and they had dances.
That was a social.
And the Hungarians had the same thing, had social and dances. After I got married, mother never wanted to go there because they all spoke Hungarian. That was the only drawback they had. When they went to these ethnic groups, like the Hungarian societies, they all spoke Hungarian. They went to the Marmara societies, they all spoke Yiddish. You went to the Litvaks, they spoke Russian or Lithuanian. The Polish, the people all spoke Polish. And that was the custom. Most of them were immigrants, elders, the youngsters, the children, all spoke their mother's language. Why, my own sister Bernice didn't speak to learn English until she started to go to school. We had a maid, Mrs. Rosen, who took care of Bernice as a baby. The poor woman was deaf, and the only language she spoke was Yiddish. And she was crazy for Bernice. So the first language that Bernice spoke was Yiddish. That's the only language she understood, and she started to go to school. Now the same thing happened with the Polish side. Even the Polacks today, those old-timers, act the same way as the Mexicans that come out from Mexico. Some of them were born here and lived here for years, and they can't speak English. They speak Mexican, the kids. That's the mother language. That's how the Polish and Hungarian and the Litvaks, that's exactly the same style they lived then as the Mexicans do today here. And whether it still goes on over there, of course, I don't know, because I haven't been to that group for long years. As a matter of fact, the second time I went to the Hungarian dance, mother says, no more. I'm not going to go to these affairs no more because I don't understand a word they're saying.
I never liked them.
She never liked them.
Well, you got the phone down.
I'm strict American. Well, then
You were talking about Bernice not having learned any language other than Yiddish in the home until she actually started school. Was any Hungarian spoken in the home?
Oh, yes. See, my father's side, my Aunt Irene, Uncle Max,
they got so shabby, I couldn't look at them no more. I went out, and I thought I'd walk around.
Margie, Margaret, and the children,
And the two birthday cards.
Bernice, and Ernie. They all spoke Hungarian in the house. Even the grandchildren learned to speak Hungarian at Uncle Max's house.
Because they didn't speak Yiddish there?
No.
So on your father's side, the language spoken was Hungarian?
Hungarian
That's right,
and English. Of
course,
course, part of it was also Romanian, but that was very little of that Romanian, mostly Hungarian. They spoke Hungarian, and these Hungarian societies, they would get together and they would have the charash and dances and jokes and eating and so forth. It was all done in Hungarian.
And on your mother's side?
On mother's side of Marmaris was Yiddish.
And they didn't speak Hungarian at all in the home then?
They spoke, some of them spoke Hungarian, yes. Like my dad, naturally, he belonged to the Marmaris. No, he didn't. He didn't. I was the only one who belonged. But Uncle Dave, Nathan, and Hershkovich, and Aaron Bain, all those cousins that Rosie, Molly, and so on, they belonged to the Marmaris.
And the language in the Marmaris society was Yiddish?
Yiddish and English. A few of them spoke Hungarian, naturally.
So although these people both came from Hungary, there was not much communication between the two groups because one spoke the language of the country, the other spoke Yiddish.
Well, you remember, as my childhood, when I lived in Marmaris, I lived in Neuchburgsko, the line of between Neuchburgsko and Marmaris, was a straight line. One side of my grandma's house was Marmaris, and the other side was Neuchburgsko. That's how the line was divided. But the town, the shtetl of what you would call, Kreshnev, was 95 or 96% Jews. And they all lived like you would, like you saw Fiddler on the Roof, with the families and so on. That's the way they lived at that time. As a matter of fact, even their marriages, their conductions with the yentas, made the shidduchs and so forth, were all conducted the same way as you see Fiddler on the Roof. The Husen didn't see the collar until he got her in bed, because she was so covered up in so many ways you couldn't see how she looked. And the same way goes with the bride. They made the mother and father arrange the marriages for the children.
We haven't talked about that before, the marriage arrangements. What do you remember about that? How marriages were arranged in Europe?
Well, you must remember, when I left I was 12 years old. As far as interest and sex and so forth.
No, that's not. I mean, how they were arranged.
How they were arranged. What I heard from the elders. But I would hear, like, the rabbi who lived 3 doors away from my grandfather's house made a promise to one of his colleagues, another rabbi. And they got married, but at the same time, that his first son, will marry the other rabbi's first daughter. It was sort of a handshake or agreement. How it was done, I don't know. I know it was promised that the first son of one rabbi would marry the first daughter of the other rabbi. As it happened, so they both had daughters and daughters and daughters. Finally, a son was born. Well, by the time the son was, after he was bar mitzvah, a year later, he got married. Well, being that he was the first son, he married a woman who was the first daughter of the other rabbi. She was 18 and he was 14, or maybe 20. I don't know. But I do remember one thing, that when they marched under the chuppah, she was 3 times the size of him.
When you came to the United States, how were marriages handled here? You were a young man, you were married. Was any of the old country customs with regard to arranged marriages carried over here to the United States?
Well, as a teenager, and we, the boy that I used to know, like Hank, Maury, or maybe a dozen more boys that I just wouldn't be able to call their names right off, and Kopoloviches and so forth. We all formed that group, that basement group, where we had a lot of fun. We used to go out with these girls on picnics, on dances, the Jewish girls, and there was no such thing as arrangements made in this country like they did in Europe.
So this country,
Not that I know of.
you know, the boys and the girls, they pick their own spouses.
That's right. Their own spouses. As a matter of fact, when I met your mother, one of the girls that took me first to see your mother, and the fact that I had a car, you know, I lived in Gary and I had a car, and she was a pretty husky woman, and she would ask me to pick her up, and she wants to take to see her friend at the hospital, which was your mom. So when I went to pick her up, she said, just blow your horn, and I'll go when you come to the house. And they all had 2, 3-story buildings, you know, and they were like tenement houses. So when I came to the house, I blew the horn, everybody stuck their neck out through the window to see who the hell that is. But there wasn't too many cars at that time, you know. It was 1928, 29. There were cars, but they weren't popular. So they were all looked around, but Margie came down to sit in my big, nice convertible. I had a big convertible car, you know, a big sporty, shaped like a torpedo. Then she took me down to the hospital to meet Sally. And I remember what she was in at that time, and that's the first time I met her, Sally. And she tried to impress Sally that I was her boyfriend. Of course, she was a pretty husky woman. As a matter of fact, she was Brown's daughter. Brown's daughter happened to be Teresa, sister, was married to Mr. Brown. Teresa had a sister, older sister, that was married to Brown. And he had one or two children, I don't know. But the oldest one was the daughter. She was a big, husky girl, much bigger than I was, because the father was big. And she wanted to show me off that she has a boyfriend. And she came and asked me to pick her up, take her out to the hospital. She called me a couple of more times, but I didn't go, because I saw the way she acted. And she introduced me to your mom as a boyfriend too, which I wasn't.
So that was the first time you met Sally, was in the hospital?
In the hospital.
And remember what the hospitals were like? How many beds were in a room?
We'll turn it off now, Dad. We'll stop, and next time we'll start again.
Talking about the hospital, you're telling us a little bit about what the hospital facilities were like, you know, when you went to visit Sally.
Well,
Do you remember the name of the hospital?
I don't. What hospital were you in, Mama? Do you remember the name of the hospital you were in?
Sherman was born.
No,
Oh, Michael Reese.
when I first met you.
I was in Michael Reese Hospital.
Michael Reese Hospital?
Yeah, I was sick. I weighed about 90 pounds.
That's where I first met her, at the hospital.
But your friend was my girlfriend.
Yeah, I told her Margaret is the one.
You brought her.
What? Yeah, she made me pick her up and take her down.
Yeah.
We meet
She
you.
came up.
Because she introduced you as her boyfriend.
That's a girlfriend, isn't it? I wasn't a
I
boyfriend.
mean,
Girlfriend.
she introduced me to you as her boyfriend. Because I had a car.
Then you didn't meet her anymore, you came by yourself.
Then I didn't come to you. I met you, the second time I met you, you was in bed with Bernice.
Oh, don't tell stories.
Well, was that a secret?
Well, it wasn't nice at that time.
It wasn't nice at that time. You know, I used to work in Gary. She come home late at night.
You shouldn't know that. That's not nice.
And Bernice,
I'm a good girl, I know.
Bernice that time, she was my favorite. So when I used to come home, especially winter time at night, she would crawl into my bed. And I wouldn't get home until 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock.
Well, you were in your early 20s then?
Yes, I was early 20s, sure.
So that made Bernice around 10, 11, 12 years old.
That's right. She was 12 years younger than me. So I was maybe in the 20s. You know, she was 8 years old. So she would crawl in bed with me, and we liked each other, and we slept. Well, Fran and your mom became very good friends. They worked together at Goblet's. They became very good friends.
Partners.
And I think they wanted her to meet me. The only way to meet me was to come and meet me on a Sunday when I was home. So Saturday night, instead of going home, Mama went to sleep with Fran at our house. See, Mama slept with Fran and Melissa slept in my bed.
My house.
So it happened so that that Sunday morning, before I knew it, we woke up. There was Bernice, there was your mom, there was Fran. They were all in bed with me.
So you had a very warm, loving family.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. So as a matter of fact, after we went out together, she continued to sleep with me, Bernice. Then Mama says, no. I said, you're going to get out of there. I'm going to sleep with you. But said, not you, I am going to sleep with you. That's what happened.
So that must have been a little scandalous situation in the family. How did they react
Well,
to
it wasn't
Sally's
scandalous because she was liked. My family liked her. Although we didn't know how sick she was, the only one who really knew was my friend. That time she was called Molly because she worked with her and she knew that she had to keep on going to doctors, and she was sick. She was a sick girl. But she was small, cute, just as you can see by the picture. And then we used to go to these dances. These boys used to arrange, like from these baseball clubs. We used to have dances and so forth. So every now and then, my sister Molly would come along to these dances with me, and she danced with all the fellas and boys. We had a nice affair. And one of those affairs, she came along to. And she came along at that time. She came as my escort. I was her escort, your mother's escort. Then we started to go together. We went to picnics together. And of course, the other boys used to take her out too, like Morris Kopelovich and a couple other guys used to take Mother out. She dated other fellows besides me.
You only were home on the weekends. Did you see her all during the week?
No,
So you just saw her Saturday night, Sunday.
Saturday night and Sunday.
So how did the family react to your sleeping together? Was premarital sex frowned upon in those days?
Oh, that didn't happen to me. Sex. That when we were never in bed alone together at home. Bernice was there, or Molly was there, you know. But we were all fooling around in bed, but we were never